Hello to all you devils out there and friends of the devil. How we doing? We got Friday, August 24th. That means it's a Bitcoin Friday. Now, I'm a little bit late getting this done today, partly because this count has gotten so difficult and so hard to read, and there's so many ways it could be counted that what I did was I just stripped the chart bare, as I often will encourage you to do, and just tried to think outside of the box. And again, as I mentioned last time I did a video, trying to simplify it as much as I possibly can. What is the simplest possible version of what we're seeing here come down? Well, I'm kind of leaning into this count right now based on the idea that it simplifies. So just to review, and I laid this out as an alternate in the video I did a few days ago here, working from our top here. So just to review here, I think there's a reasonable possibility that all we've done now is put this coming down here. We did a 1, 2, 3, 4 ABC down into a 5. So with the overlap of the 1, we have a diagonal structure here. So 1 or an A wave. I'm proposing here that that's an A wave coming down. We get an A, B, C into our B. And then from here, you know, we had considered possibly an A, B, C, D, E. I don't like that as much because I think there's a very strong possibility that there are new lows yet to come here beyond the A wave low. And we get into some... We'd be pushing some guidelines here with this final wave being longer than the prior. It's not a perfect fit. There's really not much that is a perfect fit here. So working backwards here on the idea that I just gone A, B, and then this clear 5-wave swing structure that we're seeing here, potentially could just be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to finish the C wave down here relative to this giant A, B, and then this is just a very long C. Now, so you look at that and go, all right, well, let's check it. Is that possible? Well, part of the reason that I'm leaning into this is because of how technical the 2 and the 4 have been. Those, as I've shown this in prior videos, those both came right to the golden zone, right? Either 618 or golden zone. So as I showed before, so here we come, golden zone, reach down here, unrealized target is what I mean to say, unrealized target, and then we did it yet again. So from this pivot here down to this low, we went gold. So you see back to back, golden zone, both targets to unfulfilled down here, unrealized. I'm stuck on that word today, but unrealized targets down here, and we'll just round it. We'll call it 5,000. So if we're pushing down here, if we're pushing down here to complete this, if this were A, B, C, D, E, we'd be looking for this to pivot here, and while that's still a possibility, if indeed there is one more push down here to get to this, that's going to distort the symmetry you'd be anticipating in an A, B, C, D, E. So given that, I'm leaning into this count as just a 5-wave structure. So clearly it's a diagonal, right? So this would be our wave 1. So we've got a pretty severe diagonal, yet we hold at the absolute last possible place where you could maintain here and give this as a 3, 4, 5. So it's technically, boy, until that breaks, it's pretty hard not to be feeling the pull down to these lower pivots. So looking at that, well then, you have to start from scratch and pull everything off and then work through it, knowing that we're looking for, in a diagonal, we're looking for 3-wave structures. Well, we can have a 5, 3, 5, which we do have here so we get a zigzag here in the third. So if working our way down here, we can get an A, B, right? This is very, very deep in terms of the retracement from the A. That's a very deep retracement. We don't, it's a double top. We don't violate that pivot. We can get an A, B, C down here into a 1. Right, now this was also problematic here in that we have to allow for this very short C, but if you go down to smaller time frames, as I've shown before, you can get 5 into this A, then an A, B, C, until we get a little truncation in the B wave here, the C of the B, but then it does finish and give us a C wave here. So again, that being a candidate for a 2 wave. Right, granted, I don't love the structure there, but it does work. So if you're coming to, so let's go down to a smaller time frame. I'll show you what is making this so difficult. So if we come down from that pivot, so we know this was technical, went right to golden zone. Well, here I'm per this review of the count here, I've got us coming down here. So I've got us in as doing a zigzag. So we can get a 5-3-5 to put in this potential pivot down here, which would be the C wave. So we'd have A, B, C coming down, putting in potentially now, it's just potential, right? Until we get confirmation on the hard right edge. Potentially now you've got a 5-3-5 coming down for your third wave. Then it would appear that, God, it never fails, that we can get an A, B, C into this B wave here. So we'd get A, B, C, pardon me, into the 4 wave here. So we'd have A, B, C into the C of the 4. Right, again, it's right to the 65, and then we get the rip down. So, you know, it's a possibility here that we've got A, B, C into this 4. So again, all of these lower pivots and these targets are down here unrealized. So if this is going to come down, if we're going to come down here and put this in and get towards this target, then it would fit better, assuming we were to come down here, as a C wave here to complete the 5 wave structure. So coming all the way back, we'd be at 3, 4, coming down into a 5. Well, here, this is extremely difficult to get a clean count on. I've gone back and forth multiple times. I think, having reviewed through all of this, there's a few tells here that allow for this count. So let's just work through it. So I'm actually going to go, well, let's see, let's open it up here. So let's just work from this fourth coming down. Well, we had been looking at this as either an A, B, and potentially now the C still finishing down here, but the symmetry is so far off. It's the length of the, if this were an A to the B, the length of all of this in time and the distance is just, the symmetry is completely off. So I just don't think that plays anymore. We've had too much consolidation over here to have this related to this. So I'm now currently leaning into the idea that we've got an A, B, C into a 1. Now, part of the reason I'm leaning into that is that this little spike here has given us enough of an overlap to allow to create the scenario here that this could be a 1 wave. So we're overlapping here even by a couple of ticks, which is all we need to allow for a diagonal, even if it's A, B, C, or if it's A, B, C here and the 2 is over here, or whether it's here. You know, I'm leaning towards this because it allows for a little more time, so the symmetry is slightly better. So I've got us coming down here now as putting in an A, B, C into a 1 wave. All right, so if that's a 1 wave, then I've got the condition that I need here. I've got the overlap in the 4. Now, so we noted here, so with that acknowledged that we have that overlap here, so this, now if this is our 2, we've gone very deep. So if we go, as an algo would do it, we'd come all the way down here to the swing low. Well, we've gone to the 786. Now I did show this previously. If we go back 1, we're right to the 618, but I can't get it to fit. It just doesn't play as well. Yeah, sure, we can get A, B, C into an A wave here, but it doesn't look like we're finished here. And if this were the 2 wave here and this were the 1 wave, well, we're going to need a much steeper retracement here to overlap that 1 to allow for the diagonal and accommodate all the 3s, all the 3-wave structure that we see down here. And that just looks less likely to me. I think we're much more likely to pivot here and head down towards these lower targets. So I eliminate that as a possibility, even though I recognize how technical that swing is. So an algorithm used it. But for us as Elliott traders, it doesn't work as well. So if I come back here, now I've gone to the 786, actually gone a couple of ticks through it, but by going through, that gives me the possibility here for a diagonal, since I now have an overlap of a potential 1 wave. So I come back to this and I think, okay, well then if that's 1, 2, whether it's here or here, I don't know that it matters. So we would come down here, let's see, I lost my place here. So we'd be, so this would be the A wave. So we'd be A, B, C. whether it's here or here, doesn't really matter. So somewhere in here, we'd have our C wave. We can stay here. Then we A, B, A, B, C into the 1 wave here. So, I mean, there is no count that's just absolutely perfect. It's very difficult to get a count here. So until the market reveals itself, but put it this way, this is my primary count. So for what it's worth, this and kind of working through this with you here, there's no doubt this is technical and may get relabeled 3 more times. It's just impossible to say until we get resolution. How are we breaking out of this range, higher or lower? The odds to me still favor one more swing down. No matter how I count it, I cannot get this. This still looks very corrective. It looks like an ABC. Now, I showed you this on the last video here, we do have a technical pivot in here. So again, algo does not care about an Elliott count. So we come here, we go 50, and we've gotten to and through target. So if we've looked at that, it still looks more corrective until something changes. If we were to get some sort of a big push up here, well, then you could probably carve out a diagonal here coming off of this low, but then finishing this. Boy, really, really tough to get a good count that works there, coming off of this as a 4 and finishing down here in a 5. Very tough to get a count that works there. Now, right, so Elliott skeptic would say, you know, why do we care? If that's a low and we're moving off of this and we're getting a series of higher highs, well, I appreciate that position. Based on my experience, there is always a count that will fit given enough information. Right now, we're hypothesizing based on incomplete information. We don't have resolution until we break out of this range. So it's a matter of trying to identify the count structure here in a way that would accommodate the probability zones and what we've seen already. So if we allow for this as the 1 wave and allow for this overlap here to define our diagonal, then we do have we have the immediate conundrum of, if this is my 2 right here compared to this, if this is my 3 compared to my 4, that symmetry is certainly not great. And I've shown this before. So that's what causes the pause there as you look at that and just go, boy, the symmetry is very problematic. But there is no other place. It's not much better up here. If this were somehow 1, 2, and we were looking at the 2 up here, I guess we'd have to do it that way. If this were 1, 2, 3, 4, and we were going down for 5, that doesn't work either. The subdivision doesn't work. It's just very problematic until we get more information. So it just becomes a matter of making a decision. Either the best position is to be out of the market and just let the market reveal itself. But if you're in or trying to work with an existing position, look for an opportunity to add, reduce risk, take profit, all of the variables that we deal with when we're in a trade and we're trying to analyze what's likely, what has the highest probability of happening next, which all it is just a probability analysis. Well, I still think that this plays best as an ABC. If it's an ABC with this overlap, we can trade this as a 1, 2. We'd come ABC into an A wave, ABC into a B wave, and then ABC into a C wave. And I don't love that, but I can't get a better count that fits here. So because this wave is shorter than this wave, it just becomes very problematic. So you can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, much as I want to. It doesn't work, right? A third would be the shortest. So if we go 1, 2, 3, and we play it as an ABC, well, you got to dig a little. Boy, it's really problematic here, given that clear 3-wave structure. But as I have it now, I still think this plays better as a 4. So we'd be going. So the count. So to look at it here, you can see why I'm wrestling with this. It would look like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say we go down to that target. All right, do you see the problem with that? Just the symmetry of the 4 relative to the 2, very problematic. But I can't even get this to play as a 1. Because then you think, oh, maybe it's 1, 2, and we're going much, much lower, right? So I'm trying not to let any of my longer-term bullish biasness deter me from considering that as an option. Could it be? Can I get this as a clean one wave? Well, if we think about where we've been and where we'd be looking for a 2, if I take swing high, swing low, we've done the 38. Of course, 38 more likely play as a 4 than as a 2. Of course, we have seen 2s that were that shallow. It's very problematic to get a count here that has a good fit. It's just very difficult. So when you can't get a count that fits, as I will often tell you, then I defer back to the question: what did the algos do last, right? And does that accommodate whatever you're identifying in terms of trying to get a handle on the count? So if I pull this back here, and as I just showed you here, so this looks like that's an algo play, right? So for whatever reason, I cannot tell you why, for whatever reason they're using that pivot, this pivot high, pivot low, that doesn't happen randomly. Now, interestingly, so you could take the Elliott count out of it and say, oh well, prior support offered some resistance. We can just work backwards and say, was it this one? Was it this one? Was it this one? Was it this one? Right? One of these is likely being used by an algorithm to accommodate that reaction there. So now if we start to move higher and we violate that 65, which is somewhat randomly chosen here, yet again there's no clear reason as to why they chose that other than the possibility that it was this. So we just went here. So you can see we go 618, we go 2 through, we get to the third target. Then all the targets have been hit. So you see the trouble there. It's just there's no easy there's no aha. I got it. So it's just process of elimination. Well, this is not insignificant. Whether it's support offering resistance or whether it's the overlap to give us a potential diagonal structure, I don't think we're going to be solid about a count until we get resolution, either up or down. So then we break it down. Let's say even if I go down to the 15-minute and just look at this last bit of movement here. Well, this certainly looks more like a 3-wave structure here as an A wave. This, again, there's nothing that's easy here. So maybe that's A, B, C going in. Possibly. Well, then we just pull from a swing high. Okay, what's an algo going to do? It's just going to take swing high to swing low. So here we come. We're through. Well, interestingly, note we come to the 50, get a reaction. So it's got more legs. So are we just going up to the 618? Well, we know a B wave can be anywhere from the 50 to 786, can be higher. But the probability zone is here. So let me bring this down here. That's way too big. So let's go down. We'll go to submicro. So if we're going A, B into some sort of a C wave here, I'd be paying attention as we come back, if indeed we're going to come up here and challenge the 618, because we know an algorithm is going to defend there. Now, if this pushes through, if we're going to push through, right? So as I've shown before, if we push through here, then the algorithm's just going to reverse. Again, it doesn't reverse and go long. All they're going to do is take the next 50. So if we were to come up and get higher here, so we get a B wave with our Elliott hats on, we go, oh, okay, well, a B wave can go that high. No problem. That's a push to try and break that pivot. So what's the algorithm going to do? If and when we get a pivot up here, and we don't have it yet, but just hypothetically, if we were to pivot up here, well, then as the market comes down, if that were to be our pivot, they're going to start buying at the 50, looking for that. Right? That's what the algorithm is going to do, because the algorithm does not care. Doesn't care what the Elliott count is. It's you and me. We're trying to figure out the Elliott count and say, well, can we get in behind what they're doing, and does that fit with our count? Right? Does it fit with the high probability zones? There's just no easy count. So, of course, as I've said many times, when in doubt, safest place to be is out. I did notice this just to confirm for you how technically this is trading in here. So we look right here. It's to the tick. And note that was also, right, so this, again, just confirming that you've got algo participation in here. Let me go back to maybe I can do it on the 30-minute. All right, so pulling from this, so look at this confluence that we get here. So I go swing high, swing low. So again, that's algorithmic activity. Zero doubt in my mind what happened there. We tapped the median line at the 618, that kind of reaction, which is why I lean into this as the dominant pivot here, implying that this move here is ABC. It's corrective. It's corrective. Now I could be, again, I could be proven wrong. If we're going to go up here and take and re-challenge the median line again, well, then you could look at it this way and say, okay, maybe that's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Again, it doesn't fit as well. But you might look at it and say, okay, wait a minute. All right, forget. Let's take the Elliott wave off. What did the algorithm do last? All right, so if I pull here and we look here, all right, so we got a corner pocket down here between the 50 and the 618 realized. So do you see that? So there's a perfect corner pocket. While we're struggling to find an Elliott count that fits, there's an absolutely textbook, perfect, highest odds in trading. Corner pocket, right to the median line to the tick. Right, so it's, even without the Elliott count here, or trying to get clear on the Elliott count, it's tradable. It's certainly tradable. That was, you don't need to be an Elliottician to take that trade. Just a simple swing, high, low, put a pitchfork on it, 80% probability. If that low holds, right, that's the caveat. If these three pivots, right, stay as if this pivot holds, right, was challenged here but not broken, if this pivot holds, 80% probability of making the median line. Boom, right? How good is that, right? Right at the 618, look at that reaction. That tells you that's algos. So are we going to do it again? Could we have the same thing coming back? Right? So you could open that up and say, well, maybe we've got the same thing coming back. All right, so if let me take this off here and just clear this up a little bit. Maybe we can get a corner pocket coming the other way. So we work from this pivot to this low. Right, look, if we're going to come here, so you have a potential golden corner pocket setting up here. So you'd have here to the A, if we were going to go right to the golden zone, and you'd get yourself a golden corner pocket. So we'd have A, B, C potentially of the B here. Let's go up to micro. So we'd have setting up right in there, possible golden corner pocket right there. So is that tradable? Absolutely. Regardless of what we get ultimately in terms of the long-term count on this, well, I could be relabeling this yet again, right? There's no telling. And I don't have a pivot here, so this I'm not suggesting to take this trade here until we get a reaction here, which is, given what happened here, high probability here. I think there's a reasonable trade. You certainly have a low risk trade there if you're comfortable shorting Bitcoin. If we come up here and get a little reaction from it, well, then you can just look at it. So let's consider what that risk reward would look like. So if you're front running the 618, stop just on the other side of the 65. You got an algo target down here. You know, now with the median, can we get down that far in that amount of time? Well, maybe, but what do you got there? That's 14 to 1. 14 to 1 on that, just on the assumption that we're not going to break the 65, that we're going to go into that corner pocket, right? So why do I put the stop that close? Because if we're going to break the 65, we're now on the wrong side of what the algos are doing. Now we would reverse it again. Then we would just swing low to high and then draw the median lines again. Again, looking for that corner pocket. So when you're frustrated, as I am clearly, by trying to get a clean count on this, and you just if you can't find it, usually what that means is the market has just not revealed enough of itself yet. So you don't have enough information to qualify a count. Well, if you can't get a count on it, then you got to ask yourself, well, do I just want to avoid it? Do I have to have a count to trade in the market? Maybe that's another way to think of it. Do you need it? I would tell you absolutely not. Do I use it on every chart that I pull up? Yes. Yes, I do. But I would still, if I couldn't get clear here, that's still very tradable to me. Very tradable. Right? And then ultimately, if it were to do that, if we were to come down here and get to target, well, that's giving me just more information. Now I can look at this and say, well, that validates the probabilities here that I do have a 4 in here. And I'm just putting in another ABC to correct that before I start down again. Now I go down. Maybe I'm going second target. I don't know. Who knows? Whoops, that thing always sticks to my mouse. Then we pull back out and you think, okay, well, maybe that's all that's going to do is, you know, so could be 1 or A, B, C. Could be 1, 2, 3. Maybe we're going to finish with a 5, 3, 5 again. It's just not enough information. Not enough information. But there's a tradable event right there with a very, very clear exit. Very low risk to take that trade. I'd be very surprised as we're now approaching it if we don't get a reaction at that 618. right? So that's all you're looking for is enough is so just make this clear. If the market's going to come up here and we're going to come up, hover, get a little reaction, and then immediately start pushing through it, bad sign, right? So I would be quick to let that stop just take me out there. So it would be very small risk. I'm not saying load the boat here. I'm saying that's a reasonable place to take us maybe a 40% of your normal trade size, maybe 30%, just to get in case you catch the turn. You can always add. So if it starts to come down and you get a little pivot like that, then you can add again because you know where your target is. So now you've confirmed you've got higher probability because you got the pivot there. So the first little pullback, the first little 50 on the way is a place to add. Now maybe you go to 60% of your size. Now you start heading down. Do we start to, what kind of wave do we have? What kind of wave structure do we see? There's always opportunity to add if you get a good pivot because you know what you're looking for. It's either going to be here, maybe we're going to second target. Maybe we're going to third. Maybe this is going to get relabeled as a 1-2 and we're going down for a full third wave. Maybe this is all just going down here before we put in a 4. Who knows? There's just no way to know. Maybe we get much deeper move off of that and then you're waiting for a deeper retracement to catch the 1, 2, 3. So there's a lot of, I always wish I can give you a clean count where I can say, oh, if it does this, then do that. It's just not there. It's just not being offered. Bitcoin is just, there's just so much, so much to try and work through here to get a clean count on it. So again, I'll just leave you with that. If you're unclear, there is no need to be in the market all the time. Right? If you're comfortable saying I can't get a clean count on it, so I'm not gonna try and force one. I'm gonna have a count. So it's a good idea to try and get a primary count. Good idea to have an alternate. But I'm not gonna avoid a technical setup because I'm not clear about the long-term count. To me, that's very tradable. I like the risk reward. I like the potential. It all fits with the primary count that I do have currently. So I consider that a tradable bet. That's one to watch for. So if nothing else, just alarm it. See what happens. Maybe you're unsure. You don't like the idea of that coming up right into the 618. You don't want to try and pick the pivot. Wait for the reaction. Take the first pullback. All right, guys. That's about as best I can do for you today until we get more information. So work through it. I mean, it's a great challenge to try and take this chart, even if you just tried to work through this pivot up here, which we know was technical as we went right to the 65. Try and come up with a count on that. See what you come up with. All right? It's not an easy one. All right, guys. With that, I'll wrap it, and we may be back one more today. All right. See you later.